Winning Blueprint presents.
In the lab room, the market.
Welcome to the market. You're in the lab room. I'm your host, Luke. Thank you for joining me. Welcome to the market, the NFL's one-stop shop for all positions related to the field. Here today to discuss with you the week one in review for free agency, aka the market, here in the National Football League as we go over the first week in the free agency frenzy known as the market. And we're breaking it down here in the lab room by divisions. I have put together a comprehensive spreadsheet, which you see before you right now on my big board, that has every team in the National Football League on it. And I've broken it down into divisions, split it up, and I'll go over each team individually in the division that I'm covering. And today I'm here to cover the NFC West. What a division this is turning out to be. Remember, just 3 years ago, this was the laughing stock of the National Football League. Now they're one of the best, if not the best division in all of football. And so, man, have they had a meteoric rise or what in the AFC West. And just about every team in this division is formidable. Right now, with the exception of the Arizona Cardinals, all of these teams are dangerous in the AFC West. And you could argue that the Arizona Cardinals have new direction now with Steve Keim. They have a head coach in Bruce Arians that's going to try and turn things around like he did for Indianapolis last year. And so no telling what the Cardinals bring to the table, but we know right now what the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers have to offer. They're one of the best. Both of those teams are among the best in their respective conference, in their respective divisions. And so it's no telling what those teams will be able to accomplish in the 2013 season. The St. Louis Rams seem to be improving each and every single day. They seem to be getting better, and they have Jeff Fisher as a head coach. That always helps when you have a really good head coach. And so they're going to compete in this division as well. I don't know if they're ready to compete with San Francisco nor the Seattle Seahawks, but they're not afraid of those teams. And that's always the first step, is knowing that you can beat the teams in front of you in the division. And so I think Seattle and San Francisco will have a fight on their hands with the St. Louis Rams. But I tell you what, in this offseason, these teams have been aggressive. They've made moves to help better their franchises. And so we're going to talk about all the moves inside the NFC West, talking about these teams one by one individually. We'll break them down and talk about what they've done in the first week of free agency and what they've done in the offseason to help better their rosters. So we'll start with the Arizona Cardinals in this division. So we're starting from the bottom and working our way up. And so the division last year for the Arizona Cardinals, it looked pretty good early on. They started out hot, 4-0. Then they dropped 9 straight, ended up finishing the season at 5-11. And this is a football team that has a lot of rebuilding to do. And so you get a new regime in there, a new GM in Steve Keim, new head coach in Bruce Arians. Things have changed. You're going to have a new offensive philosophy with Bruce Arians, who is an offensive-minded head coach coming in and trying to really turn this program around. And so you're going to see a lot of changes in Arizona, and I think the first thing you have to think about is the quarterback position. And so let's talk about some of the things we're going to be discussing today with the Arizona Cardinals and in this division. And on this comprehensive spreadsheet that I put together, there are several topics that are up for discussion on this sheet, and among them are players that have been released. Then you have free agent signees. Then you have re-signees. These are the players that you re-sign to your roster. And then last but not least, you have players lost in free agency. So let's get to the Arizona Cardinals. Talk a little bit about what the Cardinals were able to accomplish in free agency. I'll be using this comprehensive spreadsheet and my big board to discuss with you the Arizona Cardinals. And so let's get into it. Let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals. And we're going to get to the Cardinals and players that they have released. And I caution you, I said they were very busy. Again, when you have a new regime, this is what happens. There's turnover on the roster. There's a lot of purging of the roster, getting rid of the old, bringing in the new, getting guys that fit what you want to do, fit your scheme, fit your philosophy, getting rid of older guys, getting rid of high-priced guys, getting rid of guys that don't fit what you think an Arizona Cardinals should look like. And so you're going to change over a lot of things. And part of that is getting this roster looking the way you want it to. And so this Arizona Cardinals roster and these releases, it reads like a week 4 end of the preseason list of roster cuts. I mean, this looks like a team that's trying to get from an 80-man roster down to 53. I mean, it's that many cuts. So you have to bear with me. We'll go through them one by one and talk about the significance of all these moves that the Arizona Cardinals have made. So we look at some of the moves that the Cardinals have made. And the first one that stands out and sticks out like a sore thumb is Adrian Wilson, the longtime safety in Arizona. It probably was a hard move for Steve Keim to make, but it showed me that he has ownership of his general manager role in Arizona, that he's not afraid to make a very ballsy move. That was a big move. Hard to make. Veteran presence, guy that's huge in that locker room, huge in that community, has been an Arizona Cardinal for the last 12 seasons. Hard to part ways with a guy that still has something left in the tank. But he was making some money, you wanted that money, and you were ready to part ways and go in a different direction. And so you released a guy that had been in Arizona, been the face of this franchise, along with Larry Fitzgerald for a long time, in Adrian Wilson. So now he's gone. You look at a guy like William Gay, underachieved. You brought him in on a very lucrative deal after his rookie contract expired in Pittsburgh. You thought he was going to come in and really help man up your secondary. It did not work out. He didn't play well across from Patrick Peterson. William Gay was released. You look at another guy that's now gone, Beanie Wells. Here's a running back, not able to stay healthy, not really giving you the production that you were looking for. He had a really good 2011 campaign, went over 1,000 yards. You thought, hey, this is the Beanie Wells we were looking for out of Ohio State. It really never materialized thereafter. He's now gone. You look at another guy that's gone, Early Doucette. He really started to show promise when Kurt Warner was there. You made your Super Bowl run and went to the playoffs the next year after that. Early Doucette was starting to get more and more of a role in his offense, and then it just kind of really fell apart after that. Once Kurt Warner left, once you really started to have that quarterback shuffle back there, his production suffered. He started to get banged up. He wasn't as good as he was before. He's now gone in Arizona. You look at another guy that is not going to be back, Stuart Bradley. Underachieving linebacker. You went and sought after this guy in free agency from the Philadelphia Eagles, paid him some money to come in and really shore up your linebacker position and be one of your, linchpins along that linebacking corps. Never materialized, never worked out. He was often hurt. He wasn't productive. He wasn't the guy you thought you were getting in free agency. Money was not well spent on Stuart Bradley. You cut ties with him. So looking at another guy that you released, Kerry Rhodes. So now your backfield, in the defensive backfield with your safeties, it's going to be totally different. No more Adrian Wilson, no more Kerry Rhodes. Here's a veteran safety that, was a very veteran presence back there, solid defender, can make some plays for you. He's now gone. He's on the streets looking for more employment, will not be back with the Arizona Cardinals. So, again, this defense, that back half, going to look totally different. 3 of your 4 starters in your secondary, all gone off your roster. The only man left standing is Patrick Peterson. So it's going to look very different for the Arizona Cardinals in the upcoming season. You look at another guy that you released, Kevin Kolb. Here's a guy that was due a roster bonus of about $3 million coming up here on St. Patrick's Day on March 17th. Cardinals weren't willing to really pay him that, and really they should have gotten out of the Kevin Kolb business last season when they were really slated to pay him a lot of money around this time. They decided to eat that, give him a shot at the starting position. It didn't pan out. They paid him some money. Now he's going to be gone, and they need an upgrade at the quarterback position. He's not a part of the future. He doesn't need to be a part of the future. You've cut ties with him. Good riddance if you are an Arizona Cardinals fan. That's what you're saying about Kevin Kolb. We're done with him. time to move on. He's going to have to find employment elsewhere. And if you are an Arizona Cardinals fan, that has to be your primary goal in the offseason, is to get a quarterback in here that can help us win and help us win now. And so Kevin Kolb wasn't that guy, and he's going to be gone from your roster in the 2013 season. So now you look at free agency pickups for the Arizona Cardinals, and this is a very lengthy list as well, but it seems like the Cardinals right now are looking to rent players. They're not looking to give a lot of players long-term deals. They're looking to get guys who are going to be highly motivated to come in and play for a year because they've only been signed to a one-year deal. And so they're playing essentially on a one-year contract. They're playing in their contract season. And so you're going to get highly motivated individuals. And that's what the Cardinals are looking for, a lot of rental players. The first guy up, Rashard Mendenhall, one-year deal, prove it. He came into this facility with the Cardinals looking to land a deal. He got a one-year deal. Again, he was a guy that didn't get a lot accomplished in the 2012 season, so the Cardinals were hesitant to give him a lucrative long-term deal like many teams around the league would have been with Rashard Mendenhall. And so he realized he's going to have to prove it. He wants a situation where he's going to get to start. This is an opportunity for him to do that. He'll probably be sharing the load with Ryan Williams, who can't stay healthy, so he may end up shouldering a lot of this burden at the running back position. We'll see if he gets the majority of the workload or not, but Rashard Mendenhall is going to be a back for the Arizona Cardinals, and they could use a shot in the arm for their run game. Their run game was putrid a year ago, and it did not help that their offensive line wasn't very good, but their running backs weren't that much better either, could not stay healthy in the 2012 season. So you got Rashard Mendenhall in the fold. Now you look at another guy you've gotten, Jasper Brinkley. Here's the linebacker that you got from the Minnesota Vikings. He's going to come in. He's a tough, stout linebacker that's going to help you in your defense. He can play outside, and he's going to come in and help you in that capacity. I think he's going to end up starting, and probably end up starting where a guy like Paris Lennon is. He's getting up there in age. I don't know if he's going to make it with this roster or not, but if Paris Lennon is not around, he'll be in to fill in, and I think that guys like Sam Acho and Washington aren't going anywhere. And so he's going to have to get out there where Paris Lennon is, and I think that's where you'll look to slide him in this defense. He was a starter for the Minnesota Vikings, and I think that's what he'll do for the Arizona Cardinals, come in and compete for a starting job. You look at another guy on this list, Anton Cason. Again, another very short deal, one-year deal, $2 million. Another prove-it deal for a guy that's going to come in and have an opportunity to start across from Patrick Peterson. We're going to see what that competition looks like, if they're going to throw other guys in the mix to see if they can have someone else start across from him. If not, it'll be Anton Cason's job to lose. He was solid in San Diego. They were ready to part ways with him. Here's a chance for him to go out, play some really good football, and get paid next season in the offseason when this deal is up. So we'll see what Anton Cason brings to the table. He's a solid long corner that can play. He just has to be more consistent. It's really simple. Focus and be more consistent. You look at another guy on this list, Matt Shaughnessy, another one-year deal. Again, seems like the Cardinals are renting a lot of players, trying to see what they have and see if this is an investment that they really want to make. Or they could be just getting guys to play very highly motivated because they're on one-year deals. Get them to play at a very high level, turn that into some wins, get this franchise back on track, and then look to parlay that into getting other free agents to come because they're winning in Arizona. So we'll see how that works out. Matt Shaughnessy, a guy they got from the Raiders, solid defensive lineman. He can get after the quarterback. He can help you in the run game. He's going to be solid. I think he's going to contribute for the Arizona Cardinals in the 2013 season. You look at another guy that you went and signed in the offseason, Gerard Powers from the Indianapolis Colts. Here's a corner that is, again, very solid, not going to blow your doors off with his production on the field, not going to be overly aggressive at the cornerback position. It's just going to be solid, going to do the things that you're looking for a corner to do. Again, he can tackle, he can play in coverage. He's not going to make a lot of plays. He's not a guy that you want to start necessarily, but he's a guy that you can put in your nickel, put in your dime packages, and he can be a guy that can go and play some special teams for you as well. You look at another guy that you brought in, and Drew Stanton. He's a quarterback that knows the system. He's coming from Indianapolis along with your head coach, Bruce Arians. And so if nothing else, if Drew Stanton isn't your starter, he's going to be your backup, and he's going to be able to teach whoever is your starter this playbook and help them along in the process and speed it up a little bit. It's always nice to have a veteran that can come in, help out with the duties of bringing along other quarterbacks who aren't up to speed on the playbook. And don't be surprised if Drew Stanton is your day one starter. Say you draft a guy with that number 7 pick in the draft, and say it's Geno Smith. Maybe he's not ready to start day one. Maybe Drew Stanton is the guy that bridges the gap until Geno Smith is ready to take over and say week 7, week 5. So who knows? We'll see what happens with Drew Stanton. He's going to make this roster. Know that much. He's going to be there being a guy that can give some tutelage to some of these younger quarterbacks who may not know the system. He'll be there and be like another coach around in Arizona. So Drew Stanton is a guy that you'll have on your roster. And another guy that you were able to go out and get, Lorenzo Alexander. So the Arizona Cardinals, extremely busy in free agency, making some things happen. Again, a lot of short-term deals, a lot of one-year prove-it deals, but they went out and got some guys. Here in Lorenzo Alexander, you're getting one of the best, if not the best, special teams player in the National Football League. He made the Pro Bowl off of his special team prowess a season ago for the Redskins. And he's a guy that can play some inside linebacker for you, can go outside. He played outside linebacker and inside linebacker, very versatile, can do whatever it is you want him to do. They called him one-man gang in Washington because he played just about every position on the defense except for in the secondary. And so you can play a multitude of roles on your roster, outside, inside linebacker, special teams demon. They signed him to a 3-year deal. He's going to be an asset for your team. You're going to absolutely love Lorenzo Alexander. You're going to fall in love with him quickly and what he can do for your football team. He's going to be a very valuable asset for the Arizona Cardinals. So you look at what the Cardinals were able to do in re-signing their own players. I thought this was a big re-signing in Rashad Johnson. And I thought this was a really good signing for the Cardinals. This guy needed to be back. You already got rid of both of your starting safeties from a season ago. This guy is someone that in limited opportunities came in and got you 2 interceptions, made some plays. I like Rashad Johnson a lot. I think he can start for this Arizona Cardinals team. And I think this is a guy that you need to give an opportunity to. I think he started before. Now he needs to have an opportunity to start again. I think he'll get that now that you've gotten rid of both of your starting safeties from a year ago. Rashad Johnson is a guy I like a lot. Thought you should have had him back. You have him back now. Thought that was a great move. Rashad Johnson will be playing some safety for the Arizona Cardinals in the 2013 season. And so you look at the guys that you have lost in free agency, and not many on this list. You lost Greg Toller. He's gone. I thought that was a guy you should have tried to hold on to. No, he's been banged up. No, you haven't gotten everything you wanted out of him. But when he's been on the field, he's been ultra productive. He's gone now. He's now in Indianapolis. Nothing you can do about it. Wish you could have held on to him. He's gone. Now you have to try to find some more guys to come in and play the cornerback position for you. You got Anton Cason. You went out and got Gerard Powers. So let's see if those guys can fill the void of guys like Greg Toller who have departed. You look at another guy that's gone, Quentin Groves. Solid defender, not a world beater. You're not going to really miss him. He was solid for you. He got some pressure on the quarterback. He did some things for you in the special teams game as well. But again, not a guy that's irreplaceable. You'll find a way to get guys on the field that can make up for him departing to Cleveland with Ray Horton, your ex-defensive coordinator. And so that's it for the Arizona Cardinals. This team is a team in transition, trying to find its way back to respectability in the NFC West. Again, they've fallen on hard times, haven't been really able to get it back together in the NFC West. And now that this division is getting progressively better with the 49ers, with the Seahawks, and even the Rams, now the Cardinals have an uphill battle to climb, and they have to start doing some things to turn this thing around. They got the coach, they got the new GM. Now they have to start getting the players in there and start turning this thing into wins and getting themselves back on track. But that's what they've done in free agency so far. Very busy. We see a lot of releases, a lot of signings. They're not sitting back on their heels. They're getting things done. They're turning this roster over, getting players in here that they feel can help them in the short term. Not a lot of long-term deals here. So they're looking to get guys that are highly motivated to come in and help them win right away. We'll see if it pays off dividends for the Arizona Cardinals. That's the Arizona Cardinals in the first week of free agency in the market.
St. Louis Rams.
So next up in this division in the NFC West, we're going to be talking about the St. Louis Rams here in the market. And in this first week of free agency, St. Louis Rams have been very busy, but they've been really busy with one man. I've never seen a physical last as long as the Jake Long physical did in St. Louis over the first week of free agency. And literally, it lasted the whole first week of free agency. I mean, they were really checking Jake Long out to make sure that he was the guy that they wanted to get. And they got their man, Jake Long, signing in St. Louis for a 4-year deal that could be worth up to $36 million. So we'll talk about that a little bit later as we get in depth with the St. Louis Rams. But here in front of you, there is a spreadsheet, a comprehensive spreadsheet that I put together with every team in the National Football League on it. And we'll be talking about the St. Louis Rams today and the rest of that division in the NFC West. And among the topics on this comprehensive spreadsheet are releases from your football team. There's also free agent signees. Then there's re-signees, the guys that you re-sign to your roster. And last but not least, guys that you lose in free agency. And so I'm going to talk about all those topics with the St. Louis Rams. Let's talk about the Rams and what they have done in free agency in this first week and what they've done in this offseason to better their football team. And you look at the guys that they have released, and not many here. And so that's always a good thing when you can keep guys in the fold or you don't have a lot of guys that are up for contract. So they were able to get rid of some guys. One of these guys they would have liked to have had back. He voided the last year of his contract. I'm talking about Steven Jackson. You didn't release him. He voided the last year of his deal. He's looking to have an opportunity to win. You wanted to give him that opportunity. He's now taking it. He left. He's now in Atlanta. So Steven Jackson won't be back. Longtime Ram, gained over 10,000 yards for this franchise. 56 touchdowns. Was very productive. Always going over 1,000 yards rushing. Even when he was plagued with injuries, always found a way to get over 1,000 yards. He's going to go down as probably the best running back or one of the best running backs in St. Louis Rams history. So he is now gone. Also gone off this roster, Wayne Hunter, a very beleaguered tackle that never really was who you thought he could be in your scheme. He's now gone. And so you move on. And so we look at the guys that you went out and sought after in free agency. Right now, only 2 guys, but 2 huge names in this 2013 offseason. You went out and got Jake Long, and you've been trying to get him. It was reported that maybe he was leaning towards going back to Miami. You found a way to get him. And look, if I give you a 5-day physical examination, you better sign with my football team. And that's the way I feel about that. And the Rams got their man, Jake Long, 4 years, $34 million, with the opportunity and escalators. This thing could kick up to $36 million. And so I like the signing. There's nothing else to say. You got one of the most coveted and high-priced and most talented tackles in this market. He's a left tackle. Has struggled over the last 2 seasons. Hasn't really played up to par, but I think he was dealing with a multitude of injuries. Now he's supposed to be 100% healthy. Hopefully you get Jake Long that was really looking like a guy that was going to be one of those linchpin left tackles that stays with the franchise for 12 years, goes to 9 Pro Bowls and makes it to the Hall of Fame. Maybe he can get back to that kind of status in St. Louis. It was surprising to see him leave Miami, but now he's in St. Louis. You have a chance to really do some big things now that you have a left tackle that can take care of Sam Bradford. Look at another guy that you got in free agency, and I thought this was one of the big fishes at the tight end position in Jared Cook Jr. You got him from Tennessee. He's a guy that can make some plays. He's very athletic. He's long. He's lanky. He can get it done for you at the tight end position. You weren't really happy with what you were getting out of Lance Kendricks. Now you move on, and you're going to get production out of Jared Cook. I think if you use this guy like a Jimmy Graham, like a Gronkowski, you could get 75, 80 catches out of Jared Cook. You can get over 800 yards receiving and 9 touchdowns out of this guy. Use him the way he's supposed to be used, and you can get ultimate production out of your tight end position in the form of Jared Cook. This is a huge signing. You needed to have this done. Another weapon for Sam Bradford. This offense is going to be much better because you have a tight end that can get it done in the form of Jared Cook. So you look at now what you were able to do in re-signing your own guys. And you only re-signed one of them, but this was a huge re-signing. And that's William Hayes, the defensive end who got you 7 sacks last season. Look, anytime you get a guy that can get you over 5 sacks, you need to hold on to that guy. And you already have 2 guys on the edges that can get after the quarterback in Chris Long and Robert Quinn. And so you're already set at defensive end. This is a guy that can come off the bench, though, and give you 7 sacks. And anytime you got a guy in your rotation that doesn't start and can still give you in limited snaps 7 sacks, you got to have this guy back. And William Hayes did exactly that in the 2012 season. He's been very consistent. You got to have a guy like this back on your roster. You did a great job of making sure you took care of him in-house, and that's great. He's going to be back, and I think he's an asset to the St. Louis Rams. You realize that, and you re-signed William Hayes. So now you look at guys lost in free agency, and you lost quite a few guys, but again, sometimes you got to give, you got to take. You're going to lose some guys. You're going to bring some guys in. You can't keep everybody. And in this instance, you lost a few guys in free agency, and all of them really had an impact on your team, but you got to move on. Steven Jackson, we talked about him already. You lost him via him voiding his deal. He's gone now. You also look at another guy that you lost, Danny Amendola. I thought this was a guy you needed to have back. This one hurts because all the receivers you have, none of them are shifty slot guys. I really don't think you have anyone that can fit and do the things that Danny Amendola did for your offense. And you were a different team when Amendola was healthy than versus when he was injured. You won games. You were in games when he was healthy. When he wasn't playing, you lost games. It's really simple. You're going to miss Danny Amendola. It's going to be hard to replace that type of production. You got some guys that can play football. Let's not act like you don't have any other receivers, but for what he was able to do for your offense, what he brought to the table, what he did for you in the slot, you're not going to be able to replace that. And so that's going to be a blow that's going to sting for a little while, but you got to move on. And so another guy that you lost in free agency that I don't think you really cared to have back. And you felt like you already had this guy on the roster, and his name was Austin Pettis. And so you let Brandon Gibson walk. But I like Brandon Gibson a lot. I think he's a really good receiver, has the potential to be, and he's gone to Miami now. You already have Austin Pettis. You felt like Brandon Gibson and Austin Pettis were one and the same, and you felt like we're going to go with the younger, more spry Austin Pettis. And so that's the decision you made, and that's fine. I understand the logic there, and so Brandon Gibson has moved on to Miami, and you have Austin Pettis. So that's the St. Louis Rams in a nutshell. Very busy offseason to this point. Again, you got your man in Jake Long. That's a good move for you. You got Jared Cook. That's a solid move. You re-signed William Hayes. Solid move again. Good moves by the St. Louis Rams. You're going to miss Steven Jackson. No longer there. You're going to miss Danny Amendola. No longer there. But again, when you're in this business, you're going to have to make some tough decisions. And a couple of tough decisions were made. You're not going to have back Danny Amendola. Steven Jackson made a decision to leave. And so you're going to have to move on. But so far, so good for the St. Louis Rams in this offseason. Jeff Fisher is trying to build a winner, and he's taking the steps to do so. And I like the moves he's made thus far in the offseason to better this St. Louis Rams franchise. So that's going to do it for the St. Louis Rams. Up next in the NFC West, we'll be talking about the NFC West champion, San Francisco 49ers.
San Francisco 49ers.
So we're back in the market. We're in the NFC West, and we're talking about the NFC champion San Francisco 49ers. Who has it better than them? Nobody! And look, it seems that way right now. I mean, you look at this team, you look at this franchise and the direction that they're going in right now. You've got a young quarterback that looks like he's a budding star in Colin Kaepernick. You got a backfield that has a beautiful mixture of a veteran presence in Frank Gore and a young guy that looks like he's going to be explosive in the league in LaMichael James. And so you still have Kendall Hunter back there. It's just a great situation offensively. You go out, you add Anquan Bolden with a trade to what you already have in Michael Crabtree at the wide receiver position. You still have Vernon Davis out at tight end. You have one of the best offensive lines in the league. Look, I can sit here and go on and on about all the riches that the San Francisco 49ers have, not to mention you have about 13 or 14 picks in the upcoming draft. The San Francisco 49ers right now are sitting pretty, and the sky's the limit for this football team. And so you have to feel good about the direction that the 49ers are going in and what lies ahead for them. All they have to do, if you're the San Francisco 49ers, is just play your game. Stay out of trouble, stay relatively healthy, and play your game. And I can't really see many teams in the National Football League really being able to deal with everything that the 49ers can put on the football field. The physicality, the athleticism. They're a fairly young team. They have a great mixture of veterans and young guys. And so they have a great head coach in Jim Harbaugh, pays attention to detail. And so, man, I tell you what, let's talk about the San Francisco 49ers. I'll be using this board in front of you that you see. I have a comprehensive spreadsheet that I've put together listing every team in the National Football League on it. And among the topics on this spreadsheet are players released, free agent signees, re-signees, those are the players that you re-sign on your football team, and then last but not least, players lost in free agency. So let's look at the San Francisco 49ers and talk a little bit about the players that they've released, some of the moves they've made in the offseason. And we'll start with the players that they've released. I'll be using my board the whole entire time I'm talking to you about the San Francisco 49ers. So let's talk about the players that they've released and move on to all of the subjects that are on this spreadsheet when talking about the San Francisco 49ers here in free agency. So you look at the 49ers, and they've only had one release to this point, David Akers. And we knew this one was coming. They needed to do this. They needed to have this happen. David Akers was inconsistent in the 2012 season. And look, when you're such a good football team, the last thing you need is a kicker holding you back. You do everything you can to possibly win a football game. You don't want the one thing standing in your way is an inconsistent field goal kicker. And that's what they had in the 2012 season in David Akers. And it's amazing how things can change from one season to the next, because in 2011, this guy might have been the MVP of the team. I mean, this guy was amazing for the San Francisco 49ers in the 2011 season. In 2012, he injures himself. He really doesn't disclose the injury until he starts missing kicks. And all of a sudden, he can't make anything. At times in the season, he couldn't even hit the broadside of a barn. It was terrible. And so David Akers no longer a San Francisco 49er. You'll see a little bit later how you chose to address this vacancy. You look at players signed in free agency, and there's quite a bit of names on this list. The 49ers were very, very active in free agency. And nothing huge, no big splashes other than the trade for Anquan Bolden. We'll talk about that here shortly. But nothing earth-shattering. And look, when you're a good football team, you just need solid moves. When you have all these picks, you don't really need to go out in free agency and overspend for guys. And you saw that with some of the moves that the 49ers didn't make, guys that they didn't re-sign. They didn't want to go out and spend too much money for guys, and they felt like we had all these picks. We're in a great position cap-wise. We don't want to overextend ourselves by going out and re-signing guys for too much money and then putting ourselves in a bad cap situation 3 years down the road. And so I can really see some of the moves that the 49ers were making. And again, the 49ers are really being smart about everything they've done so far in this offseason. Look at the guys that they've been able to sign. Let's talk about Anquan Bolden right off the bat. They didn't sign Anquan Bolden. They traded for him. Huge trade, because this is a team that lacks that extra option at the receiver position. You thought you were getting something out of Mario Manningham, Randy Moss, really never materialized. You drafted A.J. Jenkins. He was no help in the 2012 season. You need another option at the receiver position. Michael Crabtree was all you had out wide. And teams knew that, and they knew you wanted to get the football to Michael Crabtree. They started keying in on it, and then you had to spread it around to the tight ends. But you need that extra option at receiver. You need that other guy that if they take one away, you still have another option at the receiver position. They went out and got Bolden. He could be the difference maker. He could be the missing piece on offense. He's a guy that maybe that last drive in the Super Bowl is a touchdown if Anquan Bolden is on your team. Because there was no doubt where you were going with the football. You threw the football to Michael Crabtree on 3 consecutive plays, all incomplete. So there was no doubt where you were going with the football. Now you have a guy to offset that in Anquan Bolden. Very, very shrewd move by the San Francisco 49ers. This is a difference-making move by the San Francisco 49ers. You look at another guy that they went out and got in free agency, Glenn Dorsey. Here's a very solid move, a guy that coming out of college was highly touted. He was supposed to be in a 4-3 defense. He was a 4-3 defensive tackle in college at LSU, was very dominant, drafted very high by the Kansas City Chiefs. Never really panned out, never really played to his full potential, but again, the Chiefs drafted him and threw him in a 3-4 defense. He had to adjust on the fly. He's been playing better of late. Now he's going to be in a 3-4 defense again with the San Francisco 49ers. Very versatile, can play inside, can play outside. I think you're going to like the versatility you're getting from Glenn Dorsey. And maybe, just maybe, Glenn Dorsey will really start to play at a Pro Bowl level. The level that the Chiefs thought they were getting when they drafted him. Maybe you'll get that out of Glenn Dorsey. Once you get on a good team, you have to elevate your level of play. And I think maybe this will be a breath of fresh air for Glenn Dorsey. You look at another guy you were able to get in free agency. This one was huge. You got rid of David Akers, and you bring in Phil the Boot, a.k.a. Phil Dawson. This is a guy that was franchise tagged 2 consecutive years in Cleveland because he was so valuable to that team. And now he was allowed to test the free agent market because they couldn't afford to franchise him 3 years in a row, or they would have to pay him what a quarterback would be in the franchise market. And so they had to allow him to walk away. And you were able to be the beneficiary of that. I think this is an excellent move. This is a guy that has been one of the most consistent kickers in the National Football League for a long time. I mean, this guy has been getting it done. He's a veteran kicker, but yet he's still kicking like a lot of these young kickers that are coming up. He's a very solid kicker, a guy that's trustworthy. One of the best kickers in the league, one of the most consistent kickers in the league. The 49ers just upgraded their kicking position, and they won't find themselves in precarious situations because of their field goal kicking game, because of Phil Dawson. This guy is going to get it done. He's going to kick the ball through the uprights. He's also going to give you some depth on the kickoffs. He can kick the ball. And so this is a huge pickup for the San Francisco 49ers. Again, nothing huge, nothing earth-shattering, just another solid move to help better your team from a year ago. Look at another guy you went out and got in free agency, and that's Dan Scooter. And here's a core special teamer. You got him from Cincinnati. Here's a guy that's going to really shore up your special teams. And we saw what happened to you in the Super Bowl. You were gashed by the Ravens and Jacoby Jones. And so you could definitely use a special teams hero. You could use a guy that could come in and play the special teams role for you. And this guy is exactly that. Dan Scooter is going to play some special teams for you and is going to be really good at it. He can play some linebacker for you in a pinch, but you really don't want to put Dan Scooter on the field in that capacity. You really want him to be out there as a special teams demon, and that's exactly what you're going to use Dan Scooter for on your football team. You look at another acquisition that you had, Craig Dahl. You wrestled him away from St. Louis. He started a lot of games for the St. Louis Rams in the 2012 season. You've seen him. You played against them twice in the 2012 season. Like what you saw, you plucked them away from them. You weakened their roster, strengthened yours. You lost Deshaun Golson. You're going to need guys to be able to step up and fill that void. Here's a guy that can do just that for you in Craig Dahl. He's solid. Again, he's not a guy that's going to go out and make 1,000 plays for you. But again, on this football team, if everyone just does their job, I think the 49ers will be a really good football team. And that's the mark of a good team. Everyone just doing their job collectively. And no one going out of their way to try to do someone else's job, just doing your job. And Craig Dahl will come in, play the safety position, play some special teams for you, and do his job. And so you might be fine at the safety position, but I don't think that just one guy like Craig Dahl can come in and fill Deshaun Golson's shoes on the field on defense. You're going to have other guys play and step up their level of play as well, because he did a lot on his defense. He was a playmaker on his defense, and so Craig Dahl is going to have some big shoes to fill, but that's a solid pickup for the San Francisco 49ers. You look at another guy that the 49ers were able to go out and get in free agency. That's Marlon Moore, and this is one that you probably won't hear a lot about. It's not a huge move. In fact, it's a very minuscule move on a scale of 1 to 10. This is a 2. But what this guy can do for you is stretch the field. Randy Moss will no longer be there. You need a guy with speed. There's no more Ted Ginn Jr. There's no more Randy Moss. You don't know what you're getting out of Mario Manningham. So you need a guy that can stretch the field. And Marlon Moore can do that for you. He's a big guy, and he can run. And so will he make your roster? I don't know. It's hard to say because you still have Mario Manningham coming back. A.J. Jenkins is still on your roster. Don't know what you're going to do in the draft, but you have so many picks. It wouldn't shock me if you went and got a receiver with 1 or 2 of those picks. And so will he make the roster? I don't know. But this guy can run. He's big. He's fast. And so he's going to be a guy that can help you in the returns game, which you're going to need that if LaMichael James takes more of an offensive approach to this season. And Ted Ginn is now gone, so you're going to need someone to field punts probably. He could do that for you. And so this is a guy that can help you. And so we'll see if Marlon Moore, in fact, is a guy that's going to contribute for you in the 2013 season. So now we look at guys that you were able to re-sign, and you look at the 49ers, and there aren't any. You chose to let guys walk away. And so people that were up for contracts, they were looking for big deals, and you weren't willing to shell those out. And it's okay. Again, sometimes the moves that you don't make are the best moves that you make. And so let's talk about the guys that got away in free agency, because that's why there aren't any names in the column under re-signees, because you allowed guys to walk away and test the market in free agency. So let's talk about some of the guys you lost in free agency. You look at Delanie Walker. That's the first one that sticks out. And he was one of the first guys gone off the board on your football team in free agency. He went to Tennessee. He wants to be out of the shadow of Vernon Davis. And so he's going to get the opportunity to start and be the guy in Tennessee. And we'll see what he does with that opportunity. You couldn't pay him the type of money he was looking to get as a starter. And I think he wanted to be a starter anyway. And so Delanie Walker, gone. Now you have to find yourself a new backup tight end. You look at the next guy that's gone, Deshaun Golson. That's the huge one. Okay? You lost your starting free safety in Deshaun Golson. This is a guy that he did everything for you. He was a playmaker. He picked passes off. He hit guys. He was an enforcer along with Dante Whitner in that secondary. And so you're going to miss Deshaun Golson. He was a leader on this defense as well. He was really instrumental in you making plays and really being one of the top defenses in the league. This is going to be a hard guy to replace. Let's face it. We're not going to sugarcoat it. He's going to be a hard guy to replace, but it's not impossible. He's not a guy that you cannot replace, but it's going to be hard because he did a lot for this defense. So that's going to be one that stings. He's now in Tampa Bay. So now you move on and look at another guy that's gone, and that's Ricky Jean-Francois. I love saying that. And this guy was so versatile for you along that defensive line. You play a 3-4 defense. You need guys that are stout at the point of attack, that can get the occasional pressure on the quarterback, that can play the 3 technique, the 4 technique. This guy played at defensive tackle. He played at defensive end, very versatile for you. Thought this was a guy you were going to try to sign back. And I thought this was going to be one of those high priority guys because you knew you weren't going to get Delanie Walker back. You knew you weren't going to get Deshaun Golson back because he was asking for too much money. But Ricky Jean-Francois I thought was going to be in your wheelhouse. And I thought this was a guy that you knew, hey, we could really use this guy back. But once I saw you go out and get Glenn Dorsey, I thought, maybe Ricky Jean-Francois might be expendable now. And now he is. He's gone. He's in Indy. I think this one is going to hurt as well. Because I don't know what you're getting in Glenn Dorsey. I don't know if Glenn Dorsey is going to come over and play at a high level. I know Ricky Jean-Francois, I love saying that, was playing at a very high level. And so I can't really say what he'll be able to do coming over from Kansas City. But Ricky Jean-Francois is now gone, and he's now in Indianapolis. You look at another guy that you lost in free agency, of course, Alex Smith. You traded him, and you got some picks from the Kansas City Chiefs. I thought this was a great move on the part by the San Francisco 49ers. I think it was great for both parties involved, actually. Both teams benefited from this deal. 49ers, you want a backup quarterback. You want a really good one. But at the same time, you don't want this guy to just sit on the bench and rot when you can get something for him. He was an asset to you. You trade him away, get some picks. That's what you did. Thought it was a very solid move on your part. Now you've gotten some value back in return for Alex Smith. He's no longer there. Now you need a backup quarterback, and you're going to have to address that. Going to have to get a guy that's solid that can come in and really hold down the fort in case something happens to Colin Kaepernick for an extended period of time. And that's it, basically, for the San Francisco 49ers. Again, this is a team that didn't really do too much in free agency. They've acquired some guys, but again, nothing earth-shattering, just a lot of solid guys. And when you're this good, when you have this many picks, when you have this much cap space, when you're looking this pretty, I'll tell you what, you go to the NFC Championship game in 2011, you go to the Super Bowl in 2012. What's to stop you from getting back to the Super Bowl and this time actually winning? You're taking steps every single year. You go from the championship game to the Super Bowl. Now, this could be the year. You go out, you get Anquan Bolden, you get a better field goal kicker in Phil Dawson. Who's to say that you don't take that next step this season and actually get it done? All the pieces are there. All the stars seem to be aligning themselves. If you're the San Francisco 49ers, you have to feel really good about your offseason and feel really good about the prospects of the future for your franchise. And I think that you let some guys walk away that maybe you would have liked to have had back. You know, Deshaun Golson, Delanie Walker. But look, at the end of the day, they wanted a lot of money. And it was something that you weren't willing to give up. I think the 49ers have had a very solid offseason. I think they've actually helped their roster. I can't say that they've upgraded it because they lost guys like Delaney Walker. They lost guys like Deshaun Ghost. And they lost guys like Ricky Jean Francois. I love saying that. But at the end of the day, you've added pieces to kind of offset that. And I feel like you didn't overpay for guys to have them back. And so your cap situation is still strong. You still have a lot of draft picks. And you're still a really good football team. And so I feel really good about what the San Francisco 49ers have done to this point in the offseason. And so if you're a 49ers fan, you have to feel really good about what the 49ers have accomplished in the offseason to this point. And that's the San Francisco 49ers in the market.
Seattle Seahawks.
Finally, we find ourselves at the last team in the NFC West with the Seattle Seahawks. And this is a team that has made some really good moves in the offseason to better their franchise and their roster and to really give them a huge shot, not only in this division in the NFC West, but in the NFC conference as a whole. I mean, this is a really good football team. They were in 2012. They got better as the season moved along. And so the sky's the limit for this team. They feel really good about their prospects moving forward. And they've shown it. They think that they're on the cusp of something big, and they went out and made some moves that scream, hey, we feel like we have a shot. Trading for Percy Harvin, trading your first-round pick and your seventh-round pick and a pick next season in the draft in the mid-rounds indicates that you feel like you have a team ready to win now, and Percy Harvin is a guy that can be a piece that puts you over the top. That's how you feel. And so you don't make a move like that if you're a team that's in the middle of the pack and you're not really sure if you're ready to take that next step or not. You don't make a move like that. You make a move like that when you feel like you have all the pieces in place, you're ready to make a power move, and you're just missing that one guy that can be a difference maker. Then you go out and get him. And that's what the Seattle Seahawks have done in going and acquiring Percy Harvin. We'll talk about that a little bit later, more in depth. But right now, I want to show you this board. This is my big board, and attached to it is a comprehensive spreadsheet that I put together of every team in the National Football League. And among the list and topics on that comprehensive spreadsheet are players that have been released, players that have been signed in free agency, re-signees, guys that you have re-signed to your roster, and last but not least, guys that you lost in free agency and the teams that you lost them to. So let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks and what they were able to accomplish in the first week of free agency, in the offseason, to better their franchise, better their football team. And so the Seattle Seahawks are right now in the driver's seat to do something really big, not only in the NFC West. Again, they're going to have to compete with the San Francisco 49ers. That's their title to lose. They were the champions last year. The San Francisco 49ers were. So they're going to have to wrestle that away from them first and foremost. But look, they can not only do some damage in the NFC West, they could be a serious contender to compete for the Super Bowl championship out of the NFC. This is a really good Seattle Seahawks football team, and they're only getting better. Very young, very talented. Let's see what they've done in the offseason to this point. So you look at guys that they've released. Not many guys here. Ben Abumanu is the only guy that they've cut loose. Again, they have a slew of receivers. You add Percy Harvin to the mix. A guy like Ben Abumanu becomes a guy that you can let go of. You don't really need him. He's not a guy that's overly productive. Anyhow, you have a slew of receivers. Sidney Rice, Golden Tate, Doug Baldwin. You add Percy Harvin. Ben Abumanu is a guy that you could allow to walk away and not feel bad about doing so. So you look at the next category, which is players that you've brought in via free agency, and not a lot here, but again, a lot of the moves you made are very sound in their judgment. Now, I thought it was overkill what you did at defensive end, but you can never have enough pass rushers in this league. There's no such thing as too many when you're talking about guys that can get to the quarterback. And so, not knowing the status of Chris Clemens tearing that ACL in the playoffs, he's not going to be ready for the start of the season. He might not be ready to play at all in the 2013 season, and so you've prepared for that. You went out and signed 2 defensive ends. First, you went out and got Cliff Averill, 2 years, $15 million. So you'll have Cliff Averill for 2 years. I feel like the Seahawks did a lot of renting of players, though. You went out and got Cliff Averill for 2 years. Essentially, you're renting him. You went out and got Michael Bennett, 1 year, $5 million. Essentially, you're renting him. These are guys that can get to the quarterback, though. Let's see if they produce for the Seattle Seahawks. If they do at a high level, the Seahawks will be a very dangerous team like they were in the 2012 season. So you look at another guy you went out and got, of course, Percy Harvin. You went and traded for him. Huge deal. You went and got a bona fide receiver, a bona fide stud in the return game. This guy can do it all. He can catch it out of the backfield. He can run it out of the backfield. He can catch it out of the slot. He can catch it out wide. He can go and field some punts for you if need be. And he can also return it from the kickoff game as well. And so this guy, Percy Harvin, does it all in the football field. He's going to help try to put you over the top. This is a huge move for the Seattle Seahawks and a guy that instantly upgrades your roster and gives you a shot in the NFC West. You look at what you were able to do in re-signing guys. Again, not very busy. Clint Gresham is the only guy that you have back that you re-signed. And you ask yourself, who is Clint Gresham? Good question. He's your long snapper. And you need those in the National Football League. He's been your long snapper for the last 3 years. He'll continue to be your long snapper. Ask the Oakland Raiders. You don't have a long snapper. He gets injured or you don't have a good one. You can lose a football game over that. So Clint Gresham is going to be back. Haven't had any issues with your long snapper. And the reason you haven't is because Clint Gresham has been getting it done. And you would like to keep it that way. You don't want to know who Clint Gresham is. Because if you do, that means he's not doing his job. You have a problem. And then you have issues on your hands. So if Clint Gresham continues to do his job, you won't know who he is, and he'll continue to be obscure. And so he's back in the fold as your long snapper. You look at guys who you lost in free agency, not a lot to talk about there, which is always a good thing. That means you're taking care of guys in-house, or you don't have a lot of guys up for free agency. But look, this is subject to change. There's still a lot of guys out there that might be signed to other teams, and so we'll see what the Seattle Seahawks have in store for some of these guys. But you lost Jason Jones to the Detroit Lions, and you lost Leon Washington to the New England Patriots. Once Percy Harvin came, Leon Washington became expendable. You released him, so he's gone. And again, once Percy Harvin showed up, Leon Washington was a guy that no longer was necessary. And so Jason Jones, a defensive lineman that you would have liked to have had back, he's been often injured, and so you thought, hey, if you're going to ask for a certain amount of money, maybe you can get that from somewhere else. You won't get it from us. But if you're looking for a reasonable deal, we'll love to have you back in Seattle. Well, he found someone that was willing to pay him some money in Detroit, so he moved on. And so that, in a nutshell, is the Seattle Seahawks. And again, a team that haven't made a lot of moves in the offseason. Don't have to, though, because they're right there on the cusp of something. They know that. And so you don't want to tinker with what you have too much when you're right there. You just need to add a few pieces, and those pieces that you add might be the difference in you getting it done. Instead of you losing 28-30, maybe you win that game 34-30. That's the difference in what you do in the offseason. And so getting a guy like Percy Harvin, getting a guy like Cliff Averill, getting a guy like Michael Bennett might be all the difference in the world. And so we'll see what happens with the Seattle Seahawks, as this is a really good football team ready to compete in the NFC West. And so free agency isn't over. There's still a lot of time. They could make some more moves. They have the flexibility under the cap to make things happen. So they're not done yet. They still have the draft as well. And so we'll see what the Seattle Seahawks plan to do moving forward in free agency and into the draft. But that's going to do it for the NFC West. If I had to give you a team that I thought really dominated in the first week in this division, if I had to pick someone, I'd go with the St. Louis Rams, because I feel like getting Jake Long was a must. They needed to get a left tackle. Now they can kick Roger Saffold over the right tackle. It helps this line immensely. Now Sam Bradford doesn't have to look over his shoulder. He can stand in the pocket confidently and deliver the football. I felt like getting Jared Cook instantly upgrades their offense. They got a tight end that can get it done, can stretch the field, will really work the middle of the field, open up things for guys on the outside. And so that's a huge move again. Then they re-signed William Hayes. And so I thought that was a huge move, getting a guy that got 7 sacks back on your roster. And so if I had to pick a team in this division that really helped themselves, I'd have to go with the St. Louis Rams. The Seattle Seahawks aren't that far behind. You get 2 pass rushers. You also get Percy Harvin. I mean, Percy Harvin by itself is a huge move, but I feel like the Rams did a little bit more by getting William Hayes back, getting Jake Long, getting Jared Cook. I feel like Percy Harvin is huge. So is Jake Long. Those two kind of cancel each other out. Even if you felt like you still had the edge with Percy Harvin, you sprinkle in Jared Cook Jr., and I feel like the Rams have the edge. And so I feel like this is a really good division, full with great teams that can do some really good things in the 2013 season. And so this is going to be a division you have to look out for. And I love talking about the NFC West because this is a really good division, and I love really good football, and that's what this division is going to produce in the 2013 season. And so that's going to do it for the NFC West in the market, the week 1 in review for the NFC West in the market.
The market.